Here are 3 common mistakes that are made in hymn playing. The first one is going to be taking your chords too low on the piano and even staying too low on the piano, whether that's not just with chords but with octaves. So if we're looking at a hymn, and I have a pretty classic hymn, There's Power in the Blood here, if I am going to be playing chords in my left hand and even in my right hand, I want to be careful how low I take that chord. So as a rule of thumb, I have here, we call this bass C or C3. We really don't want to take the chords below that point. If you notice here, here's this chord right on the C3. As we take it lower, listen to the sound of the chords as we go lower. It's going to start to get a little bit more muddy feeling. And now all of a sudden the chord tones aren't really distinct, so be really careful with that. If you're going to do some sort of octave chording, you really want to bring that chord, rather than sitting below this C3, try to bring it up, use a different inversion and come up higher. So if we're on There's Power in the Blood, so I'm bringing that chord up. Now, there is one exception, and you just saw me do that. Open 6th and open 5ths work often really well. So just be listening for the sound. You don't want it to become too heavy or too really muddy and really create that muddled sound. Same thing goes if you're spending way too much time in the bass and you're doing something like this. So now all of a sudden it's just really a muddled mess and it doesn't really have a nice sound to it. So this low bass we want to utilize in such a way that gives me a nice solid bass line, but also we've got to pull up and come to the middle section here where we're going to create the most of our warmth and our nice sounds. The second mistake in hymn playing is always staying in root position. And let me explain what that means. Often in hymn playing, you don't have to worry about it too much in your right hand. The focus is the left hand. And what that means is whatever my chord is, I want to be careful not to always play the root of that chord as an octave, or even when I'm doing some sort of chording, always stay in root position. So for instance, if I have a B flat chord here, and I want to do an octave chord pattern, let's just demonstrate with that one. I don't want to do this. Root, here I'm coming to root, back to the root, and now to root of E flat. And all I'm doing is root position. If I stick to root position, all it does is it creates a really boxy and monotonous sound. So what we want to do is try to find a bass line that uses some sort of stepwise motion. And we're working in the direction of the next chord. So maybe for this, I can walk down and walk back up, or even, and I outlined it back up. And there's a lot of options there, but I'm trying to stay out of root position, meaning the lowest note that I'm playing in my left hand is not the root of the chord. The third and most common mistake is not filling in the gap between the hands. So as a general rule of thumb, we really want to stay within an octave of each other in our hands. So for instance here, if I'm playing here, my hands are within an octave of each other. Now as I start to move higher, and notice now my hands are getting farther apart, not too far, but what I do want to do as they begin to spread more than an octave, we want to fill the gap in by bringing the chord up to the next available chord tone. Notice here we have a B flat chord. The next available chord tone where my left hand thumb can go is this D. And so I want to fill the chord in here, not here. Again, too low, too muddy. This one's not bad, but it's not high enough. So let's bring it up all the way to the next available chord tone. So if your hands are going to be spread farther than an octave apart, we have to fill that gap in. So whether it's coming up and playing some sort of octave pattern, or it's where we're going to space out the left hand and do some sort of rolling pattern that's going to bring it higher, we want to make sure that we bring that left hand and right hand together and don't keep them separated for a long time. So those are the 3 mistakes. Watch this again, work through it, check your playing, see if you're making them, and then try to adjust them. If this video has helped you, please let us know. Subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share this with your friends.